Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of my Elden Ring boss rankings. If you missed part 1, then I recommend going back and watching it. I'm going to go over it briefly as to what I said and what was going on with part 1. But this is essentially the whole list with all the new bosses down here and also a new league. And that is a league of his own. And we're going to get into that almost immediately, but at the same time, let me run through it quickly. The way I had a couple questions of people asking me about what does each ranking really mean, and I'm going to refer to it as like me playing through it, like on a fresh save file, what each ranking means. Cake means that I have not died to these bosses in the last 40 or 50 times I've played through them. Like they are easy fights. There's nothing to them. I will always beat these bosses first try. Easy is there might be some close calls. Like if I'm really effing up or if I'm like screwing around with my build or something like that, then these bosses have a capability of beating me. But I should still do it first try. Mild is if I die to these bosses, I'm not going to be surprised, but I won't die more than once to any of these bosses right here. Like I think with the most recent playthrough, I died to Morgott because I missed my roll and got like impaled on him when he like did his sword, and then I beat him next try. Not that big of a deal. Hard, I expect myself to die like one time against these bosses right here at the very least. Like expect myself to die. I don't expect myself to die multiple times against these bosses. I expect to be at like time number 2. And a lot of these bosses I have first tried the last few times I've gone through it. But at the same time, generally speaking, it takes about one death for me to get through these bosses. Challenging is multiple deaths. Generally, every time I play this game, if I fight any of these 4 fights, it takes 2 to 3 tries. And finally, unfair. Generally, I've beat Melania like 4 or 5 times, but I'm not going to seek her out because it's not very fun for me. I'm going to have to do like maybe 10 to 12 attempts before I'm going to beat her, which is always like a little bit more time than I want to spend on one area when I've beaten the game multiple times. Okay, with that being said, let me talk about a league of his own, or the top slot up there. And this top slot, I'm sure you guys are expecting it, goes to Consort Radahn. Frick this guy. Like when I'm telling you that this guy was so hard that I realized that I did not do a lot of the quest lines correctly over the course of the entire game, and I didn't have any summons that I could pull into the fight with me. So I new game plussed, went through the whole game again, did the quest lines correctly, just to beat this boss. Like I'm saying that I could not beat it on my own. I was level 180, and maybe that's more of a testament to just me really failing to understand the boss, because all the other bosses in the DLC, not the same issue with. But against Radahn Consort, it took me literally going into New Game Plus, beating every single boss again, getting back to him with the quest lines done, and using Tholier to actually, and Abernok. I had multiple summons in that fight just to win that fight. That is how hard that fight was for me. And so I'm going to put him up as a league of his own, because genuinely, he almost made the DLC not fun for me. I loved the DLC. The world was awesome. The gameplays were awesome. The fights were awesome. But I hated, and I genuinely mean I hated this fight. It was not an enjoyable fight for me by any capacity. But let's move on. Let's start with Bane. The baleful dragon, the balefire dragon or something like that. I didn't think he was that very tough. He had like a summon you could pull into it with him. Most of his abilities were fairly easily dodgeable. I enjoyed the fight. I think I enjoyed the atmosphere of it more. I enjoyed the massive beam of light that went across the screen that vigor checked you, because it was almost impossible to dodge roll. But at the same time, he just was very fun. Like he was a very enjoyable boss to fight. I think and all these bosses, I didn't first try any of them except for two of them, and most of them took me like 2 to 3 tries. A couple of them took me like 12 tries. One of them took me 25 tries, and then Consort Radahn took me like 50 tries. But I did his like third try. It was enjoyable. I'm gonna put he was harder than Radagon for sure. But I don't think he was harder than the three of these for where you fight him in the game, the kind of weapons you have, the things you have. Very fun boss. If you haven't gone and fought him, just scale the peak of the dragons. You get to fight another electric dragon, which is honestly I think harder than him. But yeah, super fun fight, good boss, well designed enemy. The next fight would be the Boar Rider, or whatever, the Commander Gaius, I think. The Boar Rider. This fight, at first for me, was really tough. This fight took me like 5 tries before I was like, okay, I don't think I have the Great Shield Talisman that reduces physical damage. Let me go grab that and then fight him again. I went, grabbed it, came back, beat him easily. Just a little bit of resistance to damage did a wonder against this boyo. Just gave me the chance to not get one shot by his combo, because he has this very unforgiving like slash hog slash hog slash hog slash hog that if you get hit by it once, you can't really dodge roll out afterwards. And it wasn't very fun when I would just die to that. But once I had the talisman, it was way less punishing, and I enjoyed it a lot. He was definitely harder than Bane to me. I'm going to put him on the top of hard, because he definitely gave me a little bit of a run for my money the first few times. I also just love the area so much. Like the whole storeroom area and the multi-use of it, and then going down into the Erd Tree Avatar. I mean, not the Erd Tree, the Skidoo Tree Avatar fight. All of that was so cool. Skidoo Tree Avatar, I'm going to put him midway through mild. You fight him, he's very far into it. Like, you are near the end of the DLC when you're fighting him. You fight him to get something to actually help it. You get something to help against Radahn. And he's very important to fight as a result. But he's not very hard. It's 3 phases of the same boss. It's very squishy. He has big ranged attacks that he does. But he's super squishy. Like, once I kind of figured out how to roll through his barbs correctly, and then I recognized you just hit him on the head and he just gets blopped. It took me about 5 tries to beat him. But each time I died wasn't really because he was hard. It was because it was like a new attack in a new phase that I was not ready for. And I didn't know what was coming, and I just died as a result to it. If I went back, I would first try it. So I'm going to put him under mild because he was fun, but he wasn't very hard. Dancing Lion Beast. I first tried this boss. This boss is cake. Squishy, doesn't deal a ton of damage, not very hard. Early on in the game, I don't think he's intended to be hard. I think he's intended to be just a really cool aesthetic boss. And he was. He was a very cool aesthetic boss. I'm actually going to put him behind Rykard. I don't think that anybody who's gotten to the DLC will lose against this boss. He genuinely is just a freebie. But he's very enjoyable introduction to the game. I do think that there are, like, the Ghost Flame Dragon is harder than him, that you have to fight in the lake right before you get to the Lion Theater. I think this is Count Ymir. I actually don't exactly know who that is, but I'm fairly sure it's Count Ymir. If it's not Count Ymir, I apologize greatly. But I fought every single boss in this game, every remembrance boss in this game. Well, no, I fought every boss in the game. Like, I 100%ed the DLC. So the fact that I don't really recognize them off of sight is mildly problematic, I would probably say. But is this Ancient Dragon Man? This might be Ancient Dragon Man. I'm going to pretend like this is Ancient Dragon Man, because that makes a lot more sense if it is Ancient Dragon Man. If it's Ancient Dragon Man, then he's also under cake. If it's not, I apologize greatly, because I definitely am missing who that is, just because of, like, the icon is really weird. But I'm going to call it Ancient Dragon Man. Cake, easy fight, really cool weapon you get from him, but it's not as good as Rakasha's Great Katana. So it's it gets you out over into, like, the dragon area to fight, like, Bane and things along those lines. But at the same time, it's not It's not like an essential fight, and it's just kind of a fun fight to do. He invades you first, and you fight him again. It's just 2 times. Both of them are very easy. He has one ability that's dangerous, but if you just space him correctly, it's super simple. Just a cake boss. He's in the same line as all these. Golden Hippopotamus. Bro, I struggled against this boyo. He genuinely, when he does like his quill attack, I'm not sure if there was something else I should have done, but I was blowing through my flasks. This guy took me 6 to 7 tries, and honestly, I think I got a little bit lucky when I beat him. I do think if I went back now, I would be able to just wipe him very easily, but I'm going to put him up near the top of hard alongside Boar Rider, because I do think that he kind of gave me about the similar amount of trouble as the Boar Rider. Needle Lita. Needle Lita is going to be the top of easy. And that's really just because I might put her under mild, but if you've done the quest correctly, you have so many friendly summons that you are doing into this fight, and you guys just go ham on them. Like, it's not really a real fight. I loved her as a character, and I loved fighting, all of them. I thought it was lore-wise super epic. But it wasn't hard. It was very easy. She dropped cool weapons, too. I'm trying to skip a couple of these. I'm going to leave you for last, and you for last, and you for last. I'm going to go in this order from here on out. Mother of Fingers. This was a very curious fight for me. By no means was it hard. I did it my second try. First try, the only reason I lost was because I was just being stupid and greedy. She's probably backside of mild, because I'd say she was a little bit harder than Lita. But she wasn't hard of a fight. Getting to her was the hardest thing in the whole game. Doing all the ruins quests. Oh, my ice maker is about to make a weird sound in case you're wondering what you're about to hear in the background. But she really is just a funny, funky looking boss. It's I think I kind of count like Ymir and the Night Lady as part of the Mother of Fingers fight, just because of the fact that you have to do it right afterwards. But at the same time, I'm not really putting her as that difficult. Like, it's getting to her was harder than fighting her. Rilana. So my experience with Rilana has been very unflattering on both accounts. I never saw her face 2. Both times I fought her, and both the first time around and also the New Game Plus, I ended up staggering her around like 45 to 50% health, and then basically just killing her so fast after that the only thing that she did was her blades caught on fire. People keep telling me this is an awesome boss. I didn't experience that. Bottom of easy. One of the easiest fights I've ever done. This is the Scorpion Girl. She is probably around the same level as the Mother of Fingers. She wasn't very hard. You just avoid the butterflies from exploding, and that's basically the end of it. She doesn't do much more than that. That is the back essential of it. If Midra here, the Lord of the Frenzied Flame, was his very first phase, he would be the bottom of cake. But he's obviously a real boss after that. If you've played it, you know what I mean. Man, Midra was a funky boss. I died to him like 6 times, but I don't think I should have died to him 6 times. I think he was hard, but I don't think he was like brutally hard. I think he was just it was a very entertaining fight. But yeah, he was hard. Just not like hard. So top of mild. Like, he didn't really give me much of a challenge. I kind of blew through him, but he did kill me a couple times because of some attacks I was not ready for. Now, to the 2 fights that I enjoyed the most inside this entire DLC. And that is the Putrescent Knight and Mesmer. So the Putrescent Knight has one of the coolest fights, I think, in the entire game. Just because of jumping over the flames, the 3-stage attack that you can dodge, but everything in the Putrescent Knight feels fair. Like, if you die to him, you have died because of your own skill issue. Entering into the fight is so cool. You jump off the thing and fall for like 20 seconds. Such a cool concept. The whole area that they're in is cool. The whole thing afterwards with Saint Trina where you drink the nectar, you just keep dying. Hilarious. He really is a hard fight. And he was enjoyable to fight against. It took me about 12 tries to beat him. And when I did beat him, I let out like a sigh of relief, but also a little bit of disappointment. Because I was like, I didn't really want to beat him. Like, I wanted to keep doing this fight. It was such an enjoyable fight. He is probably in challenging. Because he was a challenging fight for me. He was tough. I still think that, like, fighting Mog, Lord of Blood, is harder than every other DLC boss in the entire game. Especially because you're not high level when you fight him usually. Or at least I haven't been. Because I've been fighting Mog Lord of Blood around 80 so I can get to the DLC fast. But at the same time, this guy was tough. He was easily up there. Easily one of the most fun bosses I've ever done. But that leads to the final boss listed. And that is Mesmer. So if you asked me where I would have put Mesmer while I was fighting him, that would have been up here in A League of His Own. Because there was a point in time in which while I was fighting Mesmer, in the first time around, this is before I do the entire New Game Plus, first time around, I decided to take a break from Mesmer to go fight Melania because I was so sick of Mesmer. So Mesmer is definitely in front of Melania in difficulty. Melania, it took me like, 3 tries at that point because I was so locked in. But at the same time, great fight. Beautiful fight. Like, so aesthetically pleasing. Enjoyable to do. You leave it, once you win, feeling so satisfied with yourself. But yeah, he's unfair. Even the second time around when I went through with the New Game Plus, it still took me like 5 to 6 tries, and I knew every one of his attack patterns, and by that point, I was like one-shotting every other DLC fight. Like, I was having no problem with any other DLC fight, and then I reach him, and I still struggle with him. He is hard as nails. He is beautiful of an aesthetic. He is, in my opinion, the Melania of the DLC. The reason I'm not saying that Consort Radahn is the Melania of the DLC is because Consort Radahn isn't fun to fight. Melania was fun to fight, but Consort Radahn doesn't feel enjoyable. Like, no matter how many times I ran into him, no matter, like, even when I beat Consort Radahn, it still was like, that was so stupid. Why did I do that? I do think that they scaled the difficulty for this boss way too hard. I get that he was the final boss of a very hard DLC, or supposedly hard DLC. I think with my rankings, it's not actually considered that hard of a DLC. Like, I didn't think it was very hard. I think it was a beautiful DLC and really fun, but wasn't extremely hard up until Mesmer and Radahn. And Mesmer was so hard that I didn't think that anything could beat it. But when I faced Radahn, I was just baffled by how not enjoyable any of the fights were. Everything gets punished. Everything gets ripped apart. If you misstep even slightly, you get killed. The avenues to attack back are tiny. He just doesn't take a ton of damage. He's tanky as all heck. When he goes into phase 2, it's not at 50% HP. It's at 66% HP. So he is in phase 2 for a long time, and he just melts you inside that phase. So many like rapid attacks that you just get staggered out of doing anything with. But yeah, this is my tier list. If you guys have been playing Elden Ring and you guys have an opinion on the tier list, please tell me. I've enjoyed making this tier list. I've enjoyed, playing this game. If you are enjoying Elden Ring, make sure you leave a comment, make sure you leave a like, and tell me what of these bosses you disagree with the most onto the placing. And if somebody comes in here and says they first time Consort Radahn, I swear to God, I swear to God,